All right, guys, we'll jump right into it. We'll start right with the Corunna Cavaliers, 45-7 over Flint Hamady. Both teams came into the game unbeaten. Corunna leaves 10-0. Jaden Eddington was a man on a mission, 151 yards, couple touchdowns, 24 carries. It's one of the rare games this year. Wyatt Bauer got off to a pretty slow start. Hamady was really concentrating on shutting him and Tarek down early on. So Eddington took care of business from there. Wyatt did hit his first two passes. Ironically enough, they were TD passes to his twin brother. And, they started rolling at that point. And then I think they just basically wore down Hamady. They had two or three decent players. I mean, good players, but Corunna wore them down at home. And again, a nice victory to move into another battle of unbeatens with Pontiac Notre Dame coming up next.
It seems like from listening to it that kind of like what you said, maybe Wyatt and the team in general got out to a little bit of a slow start.
Yep.
And not necessarily that Hamady surprised them, but they kind of jumped on them from the start. I mean, they went up 7-0, right? And Corunna was maybe scuffling a little bit. And from the call anyway, listening, it was almost sounding like, uh-oh, how is this game going to go? And then next thing you know, 45-7. So
I think they just sometimes it happens, man. I think they maybe got a little too cute with it. That was actually the first game I've watched.
Oh, you were there?
I watched parts of Goodrich, but this is the first game I've watched every second. At first, I'll say this. After seeing this team start to finish, I mean, it's surprising. A lot of these guys who have kind of really come into their own I saw a lot of these guys as little tykes.
Mm-hmm.
They got a lot of really tough football players on the team. Really good linebacking core. Like you mentioned, Eddington, runs like a man possessed. You got to love watching him play. Oh. Perfect little thunder and lightning duo, him with Wyatt. And here's what I'll say about, Wyatt is it's electric to watch him play, man. He could take it to the house at any point. And the way I look at it, from what I saw, they're a lot better than what I had originally thought. With him leading the way, I can say this because I'm not a part of the program. I really don't think they're going to be touched until Ford Field. I really think that. I'm not worried about Friday. Yeah. If this is Michigan versus Ohio State, that's kind of how I'd view it. It's like I think Corunna should win this game, probably by 2 scores. I know Notre Dame Prep's a good team, but they don't have a Division I or arguably Division I quarterback on their team. I know he's a good player, but it's just not the same level. So the way I'm looking at him, man, I think Corunna's really looking solid heading into this weekend. How do you feel, Ted, after seeing it?
Well, it was I got a little nervous. I got to be honest in that first quarter. Both teams were playing solid defense. They weren't really moving the ball much, but I agree with you. This team has so many weapons that it's going to take a special team or a special night with maybe some bad weather. Bad weather possibly could be a factor. You got to hold on to the ball. As you saw in that game, Corunna has a tendency, which I'm not going to say stop because they have a chip on their shoulder. And there's a couple players that really do, which is all right because that fires them up. That's how they operate. Just got to be very careful in these situations to not get kicked out of a game. Not only are you kicked out for that game, but then you got a penalty in the next game if you happen to win. So they got to watch that a little bit. But I think Coach Herrick, he wants them to have that edge. They're confident. And they know that if they're tested, just go about their business, and they got enough talented players to pick up the W.
I know you guys were mentioning that on the broadcast quite a bit about when the game was clearly in hand and it was getting a little chippy. You guys were mentioning a few times, like, keep your cool, guys. You do not want to get a dumb penalty, first of all, and then maybe be kicked out of the next game. And sometimes, it's tough to do that when you're in the moment, the heat of the moment.
It is.
You're getting shoved a little bit or something like that. But yeah, kind of to both of your guys' point. And we've talked about it. I've talked to friends, about it. It seems like maybe like what you said, Jared, maybe until they get to Ford Field against one of those Grand Rapids teams, anytime Corunna steps on the field right now, they have the 2 best athletes on the field. And maybe you could even add Jaden in there and say 3rd, but definitely the Bauer twins, at least right now, when you talk about just overall athletes, the speeds, track state champions, and how good they are on the football field. Like you said, Jared, arguably a D1 quarterback, I don't know if anyone can for 4 quarters match up with what they have. And like you said, if a team does somewhat stop the pass, they can run with Wyatt, they can run with Jaden, and even Parker Isham, is a pretty good, if you want to say 3rd string or, 2nd, 3rd string running back. So And if they're shutting down the run, then they can go full air it out and just bomb the ball all over the place. So they're as complete a team as there is, great kicker too. So you mentioned the defense, Jared. I was talking to some friends too. You brought up Coach Herrick, and it's something that it's not to keep bringing back 2002 or whatever, but it's crazy to see the parallels and how similar this district is to ours back then.
Yeah.
Of course, with Coach Herrick was our coach. We were 10-0 going into that district title game against a team in Grand Rapids South Christian that was supposed to be as good, or kind of like similar.
They won the state title, so they were
right. Well, like at the time, you didn't know that they were going to, but kind of like Notre Dame Prep is kind of what I'm saying. Clash of two of the better teams in the district. The team that beat us went on to win the state title, like you said, Jared, and it kind of feels like that's what this game is setting up to be. That whoever wins this game has a pretty good path to get to Ford Field. You never know what's going to happen, but it's something that, I'd be curious to ask Coach Herrick again, maybe what he's learned since then, to take that loss, our loss in 2002, and say, like, have you learned anything from that? Like, do you look back on that and maybe think of some things you would have done differently that you're taking into this game? I would just be, maybe that's more a personal thing, but I would be curious to ask him, like, hey, 20 years ago, you were in basically the exact same situation and we lost. What would you change, or what are you doing to prepare for this game? It's just cool. It's really cool to see Corunna in this position.
That'd be a fair question to ask, but just from my viewpoint and how I've watched him on the sidelines, and I did some games early in the season down on the field, just watching him operate. You can see that obviously with the years of experience, maybe not years of experience as head coach, but being in the program all these years after that first run when he coached UMatt, you can see that there's a calmness, there's a confidence, and it just goes right down to the rest of the team. You don't want a coach that's going to be a screamer or, nervous out there. And he seems to have good control of this team. And again, heads up, or a salute to Steve Herrick's done a heck of a job this year so far.
Yeah, it's impressive. And this game, talking to some friends again about this game Friday night in Corunna at the Nick, 10-0 versus 10-0. There's a good amount of guys from the 2002 team that haven't been back to Corunna very often since we graduated that are going to Corunna for this game. That's how big it is.
It's big.
Some friends that live in the area said at like 5 o'clock, people were already starting to line up, and they were like, we're going to go to the stadium at 4:30, 5 o'clock to make sure that we get our spots. And it's just super cool to see. I was going to lay out a little tail of the tape real quick for people that maybe don't know some of the stats. I looked some up. So tail of the tape, Corunna versus Notre Dame Prep. Point differential is actually pretty similar. Corunna 452 points scored to 59 given up. Ted, you can maybe fact check me on that one. Notre Dame Prep 429 scored on offense, only 82 given up. So point differential for both teams pretty similar.
Yep.
The quarterback battle though that we've talked about, honestly, you can make an argument this might be one of the biggest quarterback matchups in the state. Ted, you said you think the winner is going to be first team All-State.
Very possible.
Wyatt Bauer completing 72% of his passes, 1,900 yards passing, 23 touchdowns, only 3 picks. It's just insane. Oh, and then throwing 845 yards rushing and 15 rushing touchdowns.
And only been sacked. He hasn't been sacked, but it was a ref mess up on Friday night. So in my book, he's been sacked 1 time. But that maybe is the most impressive stat of the year, really. I don't know how that's possible. I really don't.
Yeah, one time to not have a blitzer come in and bring you down.
Yeah, like crazy. How does that? Honestly, that's like it doesn't even make sense, really. But you can keep going.
Yep, over there. So for Notre Dame Prep, again, their quarterback Jacob Tuttle. He's just as much of a stud as Wyatt is. 83% completion percentage, 1,300 yards passing, so a little less, 26 touchdowns. The crazy stat is he has more touchdown passes than he has incompletions this season. And he also has 8 rushing touchdowns. So honestly, it seems like it's going to come down to which quarterback shows up, which quarterback has, essentially like their best game of the season.
Yeah.
You hope whichever one doesn't turn the ball over and that kind of thing. It's crazy. Obviously I took a couple other noteworthy wins. So obviously Corunna, Goodrich, Fenton, Hamady, probably their 3 biggest wins this season.
Right.
Notre Dame Prep crushed Gladwin, defending state champion D5, who did get put out last week. So maybe they're not up to their state championship level this year. They destroyed Detroit Edison 51-0, who is still in the playoffs right now. And then they, kind of beat Williamston pretty handily last week too. Williamston, a strong program. So, I mean, this is as even as it comes. Like Jared, you kind of said Michigan, Ohio State. It feels like it's something like that for Corunna and Notre Dame Prep.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think it's coming down to the defense. And I think this is where Corunna, they get pub for their defense, but they are very strong defensively, that up front, the front five, the linebackers, and, anybody that throws a pass up anywhere near Wyatt or Tarek, they're going to be in trouble. So I think the defense.
I did like your guys' commentary where Hamady, I mean, a solid squad, not perfect.
Right.
I will say they're the only team I've ever seen run I formation out of the shotgun. That was
different.
But they were running the ball. Their one play action pass they were setting up all game. They run it right to Tarek. It's just an easy pick, and you guys are right on it. It's like maybe I would have tested the other side, maybe instead of him, but so be it. So that was so it's really exciting, man. I can't wait to see it. I'm knock on wood, I'm 99% sure I'm gonna be there in attendance.
Nice. Good deal. Well, we'll see you there. Before we wrap up this segment, it's not just all Corunna. I mean, Chesaning 9-1 now, 31-12 over Stanton Central Montcalm. Indians won their 9th straight game after losing the opener against Bath. Braden Florian, man, he's putting up all state type of numbers in his running back position, 233 yards, a couple more touchdowns, and Indians are.
What a cool story, man.
Yeah, you think back to 2001 when they won the state championship, their second state championship, lost their first game of the year to Millington. They're one of their rivals at that time, and they ran the table from that point on. And this Chesaning team, we've said a few things about New Lothrop flying under the radar, but this Chesaning Indian team, maybe not under the radar. I think they were ranked 4th or 5th in their division, but they've done a heck of a job for Matt Walter over there.
And that, I mean, they're going to be hosting the game this weekend, right? I mean,
I believe so.
Yeah.
Got a lot of that's maybe the best weekend in mid-Michigan, Shiawassee County sports, Ted, that you've had. Yeah. As a broadcaster, right? I mean, it's got to be up there.
Very well could be, because we didn't even talk about it. New Lothrop is hosting Ithaca.
Yep.
Right.
Which is insane because Ithaca right now is undefeated. Right. So obviously the whole point situation and all that kind of stuff plays out. But New Lothrop hosting Ithaca. I looked up Ithaca right now. So New Lothrop's only loss this year is to Chesaning, who you were just talking about.
Right. And they were an interception at the goal line away from winning that game too.
Right. So a heck of a game there. That's New Lothrop. We talked about New Lothrop flying under the radar a little bit, maybe not being talked about as much. So this is going to be a battle. Ithaca right now, I was doing some math at work today. I had a little time to kill. Ithaca's point differential right now, 474 points scored to only 73 given up. Ithaca is just a powerhouse program, man. That's a heck of a game right there.
And it's weird to see those teams both in D8. I mean, I would say that's the D8 championship. I mean, I know there's some other good teams on the other side, like I think Obley and Centerville, those type of schools. But I mean, Clint Galvis and New Lothrop versus Ithaca, like you said, powerhouse program for as long as I've been alive. I mean, it's just what a fun matchup that is. It really is.
Yeah. Well, we talked about it. I mean, the Corunna district of death, but there was about 3 districts of death, and that one there, Ithaca beat Fowler by 1 to get to this game.
Well, yeah, and I mean, that was even a last second or towards the end of the game anyway. It took a crazy comeback for Ithaca, right, to pull that off. So, I mean, that's an awesome game. And then I know you were kind of probably getting to it. Ovid-Elsie is also still alive, and they're playing Lansing Catholic Central. I'm pretty sure Ovid-Elsie is hosting that game also.
Yep.
So that you're talking about games in mid-Michigan. You got Ovid-Elsie, Chesaning, Corunna, New Lothrop, all hosting playoff games. That's pretty cool.
And isn't Lansing Catholic 4-6?
Yeah, they were 3-6.
I would love to know that school's record against Shiawassee County schools. It might be 800-0. They win every year. They're 3-6. We saw it last year against Durand. They stumbled into playoffs, upset Durand. 9-0. I mean, looks like they're doing the same thing this year, and they got another Shiawassee County opponent up next. Trey Stoka, our guy.
Yep. Yeah, he had a hand in each touchdown in their win.
You knew he did.
Absolutely. And you talk about LCC or Lansing Catholic. I mean, they beat Durand and Ovid-Elsie last year to win the district, and they're in position to possibly do it again, coming into the playoffs with a kind of a poor record, but it just shows you the kind of competition they play.
I mean, how cool would it be if all 4 of those teams won? Corunna, New Lothrop, OE, and Chesaning all win districts on the same night.
I'll tell you one thing:
the castle wouldn't know what to do.
Yeah, I was going to say the radio station phone lines will be lit up. I know that for sure.
Is there a world? Could you guys split the booth up? I don't know, but no, you guys all want to be at Corunna, so I'm not even going to put that in the universe. You guys want to be at the Corunna game.
That'd be kind of tough to do. There was a time in the past where we would have Joe Smith at another stadium and he'd be calling in reports. And then depending on if the game got over before the other one, he would actually do play-by-play at the end of the game to bring everybody up to speed. We did that quite a bit in the back in the heyday of the Castle.
I would say the golden era. Yeah, when the Garden was Eden.
It was the golden era. Perry, we talked about them taking on PW. We knew it was probably going to be a loss, but I think they represented pretty well for a first-time playoff appearance. You know, PW got them 47-9, but hey, nothing to be ashamed of. That was nice to kind of set the stage over there for their coach Bott.
Yeah, I was, texting family and, my family members who were up there watching that game. And first of all, one of the comments that my parents made was how just so nice that community and the drive up there is. They were just commenting on the farmland and just how nice the town, the houses, the school, obviously the football facility. They were just commenting on how nice that is. And then, obviously, didn't go how Perry wanted, but still an awesome experience for those kids.
Just down the road, the Morris Orioles lost a tough one to Deckerville. Probably the home field advantage, the difference in that one, 46-40. So the O's finished 7-3 for Kendall Crockett. But man, he's developed quite a 8-man program over there in Morris for sure.
Yeah, I mean, state championship a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
not bad.
And that's one of those schools. I mean, a lot of people kind of, bitch about 8-man. I look at Morris and you remember what they were, when I was in school. And it's like they would go 0-9, 0-9. Right. They'd be forfeiting games basically at halftime against Lothrop. Then they go to 8-man and it's like they're a power in 8-man. It's just kind of cool to see. So it's just shows that, 8-man, it's not quite 11-man, but still pretty damn good football.
It is good football.
Cool, and it's good for a lot of those schools too.
Absolutely. I've had a chance to broadcast some of the 8-man game, and it's really, you don't really see much difference other than a little narrower field, but it's a wide open type of game. And again, Morris has figured it out. And finally, locally, we had Langsburg losing by 2 to Bass, 16-14 in a battle of a couple of CMAC schools. So the Wolfpack finished 4-6 on the season, but they really have a decent program going. Also, one final thing here in cross country, Owasso girls finished 3rd in the D2 regionals at DeWitt High School. They qualified for the state finals at MIS, and the Langsburg girls also qualified in D3. Well, let's move on from the prep spotlight and let's go right into the meat and potatoes of sports potpourri, and we might even just talk a little bit about Jim Harbaugh right after this.
Jacobs Insurance Agency has served Shiawassee County and the surrounding areas since 1977. Just like 3 Point Podcasts, we've had 3 generations: Gary Jacobs Sr., Gary Jacobs II, Brian Jacobs, and myself, Noah Jacobs, serving our community with offices in Waterford and Owasso on M21, just west of Home Depot. Stop in or go online to jacobsinsurance.com to get a quote or get your questions answered by our team. Jacobs Insurance is a proud supporter of our local schools and the proud sponsor of the Prep Spotlight. Insure everything, local, independent, and trusted. It's our family working together to protect yours. That's the Jacobs way.